Hey everyone, Stegar here and welcome back to Hunterville. In today's episode we're going to be working on a Railyard, just here where I've placed down this building which actually acts as a cargo terminal in game. So when we get it all connected up to the railway lines, which I'm doing now, it should actually work as a proper railway terminal with cargo trains coming in. I think after this episode I hadn't connected up all the railway lines outside of where we're currently viewing at the moment, but at some point they'll all be connected up and hopefully that'll work as a way for getting cargo into the city. I'm also doing a bit of detailing here and about to put in some sidings where rail cars can be put that aren't really being used at the moment. And yeah, here I'm just connecting up all the different rail lines with these other ones. I think they have wooden sleepers rather than concrete sleepers or whatever, so it looks a bit different, but I imagine that these don't get worn down as much, so they don't require concrete, which would last a lot longer, I think. And yeah, the concrete's just on the main lines, and the main lines have been electrified for when the train locomotives actually come through and actually need powering rather than just the rail cars going off into the sidings and stuff. I actually found doing this railway stuff quite annoying, and that is the main reason why this episode's only like 13 or 14 minutes long rather than the like 18 or 19 that I like to make my episodes. I just got sick of doing everything and kind of gave up and moved on to different things for the next episode. And here I'm just connecting up the other side of the rail yard to connect with the rest of the train track, and tweaking around with this stuff. I think I might have a second rail yard somewhere else in the city. I imagine that this one's been here since basically the rail line came to the city, and at some point it's run out of space because whatever buildings were next to it didn't want to sell up and let them take over or whatever, so there could be an opportunity to build another rail yard somewhere else in the city, in some other industrial area sometime later in the series, but that won't be for a really long time. And here I'm just making a little maintenance siding workshop, and I put down a few trains here as well, just kind of parked alongside. I imagine they'd be mainly for just shunting different rail cars around the yards, not so much for the actual train trips themselves, but just there to kind of make sure that everything that doesn't need to be on the main lines isn't, so that the cargo terminal can continue to operate as usual. And I think these are by Bisquicklehausen. I downloaded a whole lot of trains and stuff from him. I remember doing that, and just using them because I'm not really sure sometimes what assets to use. And here I'm just making like a big warehouse for trucks to distribute stuff from, and connecting up this road and stuff. And I'll build a container yard out here soon with a whole lot of containers and stuff that could be loaded onto the trains. I don't imagine from this part of the rails, but down the other end I put in a little siding that I never really detail, but that comes later in the episode, and making sure to fence all this stuff off so that people can't run out on the tracks. As I was saying last episode, you don't really want that because it wouldn't be good, and also dangerous, just people putting stuff on the tracks, because the trains will be coming along fast here if they're not stopping. And I'm connecting up a little entrance. I put in some security booths and stuff so that people can, like, if they're allowed in there they can go in, and if not someone can stop them. And just scaling up this barrier because I didn't feel it was quite big enough to fit across this whole road. I'm just using the dirt path and cover it with some decals soon to try and make a less obvious transition between this path and the gravel around it. And here I'm putting down the ploppable surfaces to kind of make the edge of this sharp. At the time I hadn't discovered the ultimate area fillers, the like concrete brush and gravel brush, etc. that you can use that are like 4x4 buildings basically, and you just use them to place them down and fill in the textures and stuff. But yeah, at the time of building this, I didn't have those. This was actually filmed before I recorded the last 5 episodes of Fairview on my channel, so quite a while ago, and I kind of discovered those ultimate area fillers between recording these episodes and switching over to my Fairview series, and just covering up some more gravel and stuff here. Around this area I was originally wanting to put in a recycling centre, but it just didn't really work out. There was too much space and it was a bit awkward to try and fit stuff around it otherwise. So yeah, I'm making this into a container yard and putting down the expansion joints to kind of add some texture to the ground where it otherwise wouldn't have any. I know there are map themes out there that have this already inbuilt, but I mean, they're kind of a bit annoying because to take advantage of that you kind of have to have a perfectly gridded city that's in line with the way that those expansion joints and the textures are going. So I prefer to do it this way, kind of. I think this is the first time I've really used them, to be honest, but I think it just adds a lot more detail without actually having to do that much. And adding in some container stacks by Avanya and just filling in the ends of these with some other containers, because I kind of made it 2 spaces too long for the container stacks and was just trying to kind of fill it all up and make it look okay. Anyways, I was kind of basing this whole area off the cargo yard in Palmerston North, New Zealand. I have used the city before to get an idea of how the downtown grid layout would be, and the city is only about 80,000 people, so it's a good reference for something of the scale that I want to make in City Skylines, as I feel like 80,000 people is relatively achievable in this game, whereas anything more like 300,000 is probably way too much effort for what I want. Anyway, here I was just placing down those orange container cranes. I didn't have the prop painter mod, so I had to place heaps down and find the ones that were the right colour, as you would have seen there. And here I'm just putting down some more cargo containers. The cranes would just go around this area and pick them up and load them onto trucks and things that could then take them to other parts of the city or into the main part of the cargo terminal, which is going to be on the other side of the main building that actually functions as the cargo terminal. But here I was just putting in a little security gate so that people can't just sneak in here at night and steal stuff and what have you. I imagine that there'd be a whole range of cargo from hazardous goods and stuff. Actually, maybe the hazardous stuff would have its own area, but you know, electronics and stuff might be in those containers too, and someone might try and break in there. And I feel like cargo yards or mainly shipyards, but since this isn't really a coastal city and we don't have one, then this rail yard here, maybe that would be a great place for crime. And here I'm just adding in some details under here and just trying to make it look a bit less monotonous with the concrete texture, and more decals here too. There is this space on the right of the screen where you saw, it doesn't matter now, it's changed direction completely, but on the other side of that big warehouse, there's a lot of space between this and the rest of the city. I wasn't really sure how to fill that in yet. I don't know, I'm thinking maybe some car dealerships along the main road and then maybe more industrial, or I could put a stadium there, or some residential in different parts of this area, but I don't really want to put it right beside this cargo yard because obviously it's an easy place for industrial to get their supplies from, as it's literally just across the road from where it comes into the city. But yeah, if you've got any ideas of your own of how I can fill this space up, feel free to leave a comment. You'll get a better view of the area in one of the cinematics, as I tried to include some other stuff of the city in general, just like from over here. And look, in the city looking back over here or something. And here I was just working on where the main part of the cargo yard will be. I didn't get to actually detailing this area in this episode, but that'll be something for the future, as I kind of started not really feeling that motivated to work on this anymore after you can see me fiddling around with the rails. That was the main reason why, as I mentioned earlier. And these are just kind of connecting up to other bits and going back into the main train station, which is where that line goes. It's just a bit of a spaghetti mess of train tracks, but it kind of functions, I guess, in a way. Anyway, soon we're going to get down to placing the actual rail cars for this episode, which was kind of the main thing that I wanted to get done at the end of this episode, so we're doing that now. I didn't use the prop line tool that much in the first bit of placing these down. Also, I wanted to replace this one car here with one of a different colour to kind of make it not look like it had all been placed down in a line, and here I was just placing them down by hand to try and get some variety. I later realised that you can just use the prop line tool and change the cargo cars, and it doesn't really matter that much. So I was doing that later on, but here I was just placing them down like you can see me doing now. Next episode we're going to be working across the rail line on some suburbs, which will be the first in this series, which is nice for a change after so much downtown and industrial work. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to leave a like, and if you've made it this far and want to see more of my videos, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll be back in 2 weeks time with the suburbs episode, so I hope to see you in that one.